Okay, so for this, the next step, once you have your finding on, you're gonna put both of your pieces, and I just lost my second piece. Where did I put that? Oh, here it is. On one of these, and if you can see carefully, there's a piece of tape across this, and what you want to do is make sure that this is on a clean area, completely covered with tape. In other words, you don't want it suspended over, so part of it is on the raw piece of board, but actually physically on the tape. And what we need to do is create a seal around the bottom of the piece so that when we pour the rosin in, it doesn't leak out the sides. To do this, you're going to use this modeling clay I have. It's not regular clay, it's modeling clay, which doesn't dry out. It's non-hardening, it's reusable. So when you're done with it, you're going to give it back to me. And I took a piece of white paper and I just took the clay and honestly just rolled it out like this until I got a thin piece like that. So you just take it and just keep rolling with the palm of your hand until this becomes a thin coil. Looks like a little, I guess, worm. And put your piece down again in the middle of the tape. I cannot emphasize it enough. It's got to be completely with tape underneath it. And I'm going to place this down, and I'm going to be very careful to hold my piece down firmly and securely, and as I move around, I'm pushing this clay onto the piece. And the entire time I'm doing this, I'm physically holding my piece down so it doesn't shift. I'm trying to be really careful because when I get to the part where I have my finding, what I don't want to do is get clay on my finding. So this is a little bit of a delicate maneuver, but I find that if I just very carefully move this underneath first and then start around it and just kind of push this down, and just make sure you go around the entire piece at least twice, and clean this all up. If you have extra clay, you can take that off. You don't need huge pieces dangling off. In fact, that might get in the way, whoops, for what we're doing. So a couple things I'm going to check. First of all, I'm going to make sure this is completely sealed, because if it's not, if you don't have a total seal, the rosin's a liquid, and when I pour it into the piece, if this is not sealed, it's going to leak out and it's going to ruin not just your piece but the pieces around it, and that could be somewhat disastrous. So make sure that you, again, press this down really well. So you can see I've gone around this piece at least 2 or 3 times to do this, and I already have the second one done. I'm going to check the inside too. If I have any clay in there that's snuck underneath, I can take, like I have this little blending tool, I can take that and kind of clean that up on the inside. I don't want anything in there. If I have a piece of dust in here or a piece of clay in here, that's going to become embedded in my rosin, and I don't want that. I want it to be looking completely clear. And then just to get this ready for the rosin, there is a little hole where the finding goes through, so we need to seal that up, but I find clay doesn't work best for that. So what I'm going to do is just take some good old Elmer's glue and make sure that that finding is set up, and then just take a little bit of glue in on the outside. See how that's like a dab right there, like that, and just let that sit and seal that up. And I'll do the same thing on this one. And it's okay if it gets on your clay, that's fine. Just put a dab right there, and I'm going to let that dry. And the last thing I'm going to do, so I know this piece is ready to go, is I am going to, somewhere on the base, on the paper part, I'm going to write my name. So that after I pour the rosin, I for sure know that that's my piece that's ready to go. So these 2 pieces are now ready for me to pour rosin into, and so I'm going to let that glue dry, and then I will pour rosin in them.